But now to the talk, okay? So there are 3 words in there. Whole brain thinking, you probably have seen this in the website. Design, obviously you know design is a strength of McCormick. The key word in here is leadership, okay? You are not going to encounter the word leadership in almost any other school of engineering at this moment. You will encounter big time if some of you decide to do an MBA. Everything is about leadership. But I will explain to you why you are going to be prepared on the leadership front, okay? So you are at the beginning of a journey, and the whole point of being here is to fill your brains with content, to give you a library. The library will depend a little bit on what you do decide to do with regard to majors, but it's a library, and that library will give you a lens through which to see the world, okay? Now, we are at a moment in which innovation and technology is accelerating, okay? And I'll try to give you a couple of examples about how this looks like, okay? So this slide, I'm going to give you the time that it took for some technologies to penetrate 50% of the market, okay? There are some technologies in here. Before the talk in here, we found the BlackBerry there, buried in the back. BlackBerry was the favorite tool of communication of Barack Obama. They're gone, okay? Something else replaced BlackBerries. Electricity is here, still with us, but I bet that none of you has come across a VCR or a DVD player. In fact, many of the things in here have disappeared, okay? Now, this is 50%. If I show you how things evolve in time, this is how things start in 1900 with telephones. Maybe your grandparents, this depends on where you lived, okay? Have seen the evolution of all of those technologies. Maybe your parents have seen this, and maybe you are seeing that, okay? And this is, for example, the evolution of phones. As you know, for example, in Africa, they never went through the landline stage. They went directly to cell phones. And so this is what you are seeing now. Now, if you think you are done, you are dreaming, okay? There's going to be something in the next 3-4 years that will replace this. If I knew what it was, I will be putting money on this, but I have no idea, okay? So we're experiencing the most period of rapid change in our lives. It will continue, it will accelerate, and the question is, how can you be prepared to handle this? And this is why you are here, okay? So the most important thing is to have knowledge that will not disappear, okay? Timeless knowledge. And this timeless knowledge has to do with everything that makes engineering engineering. Systems, the ability to understand things in a quantitative way, to think logically, rationally, all of those things will stay with us on this. I can bet my life on it. They will stay with us for a long, long, long time, okay? But it's not enough. I mean, you can be fantastic on that timeless knowledge, systems thinking, quantitative thinking, rational thinking, but if you don't have the right attitude and viewpoint, you are not going to go that far, okay? You need this as well. And what you need in here is the ability to see connections. It's very hard to see it at this stage. The ability to see interrelationships, and this is the domain of what we call whole brain individuals. Okay? What does it mean to be whole brain? All of you are here because you have really excelled on the left side of the screen. You have done well in math, physics, all things quantitative. But you're also probably here because you have an inclination to develop the right side of the brain as well. So with the left side of the brain, which is what most School of Engineering foster, you can solve problems, and what engineering gives you is the ability to solve problems, really. That makes you valuable, people want to hire you, that's fine. But at the end of the day, there is no big prize for solving correctly what turns out to be the wrong question. At some point, asking the right questions, especially if you're in a position of leadership and you lead a team, is as important as solving the question. You have a team, and for that you need the metaphorical thinking, divergent thinking that is associated with the right side of the brain. So the whole point also is that to think with both sides of the brain is better than to think with only one half. It's a broader set of ideas and possible creative spaces that you will have if you manage to augment left brain skills with right brain skills. So I'll give you one example here. This is sort of neuroscience moves very fast, and the brain is much more complicated than this, but these are results of, they were done in San Diego. I think I see someone with a cap of San Diego here. With patients that have suffered massive brain loss. So to these patients, they show a figure like that one. It's called a Navon pattern. Navon was an Israeli psychologist. And as you can see, that's a letter H composed of little a's. Okay? The people who had only the left brain active, that's what they see. And the people who had only the right brain active, this is what they see. So in one case, you see details. In the other case, you see big picture. Of course, in life, you need to have both. You cannot go big picture directly. You have to know details before you go to big picture. So I'll give you some examples coming from art about the contrast with technology that we talk about, and give you an idea about how lessons can be transferred from one domain to the other one. There are lessons from technology and science that will transfer to art. There are lessons from art that will transfer to science and technology. So this is a series of lithographs done by Pablo Picasso, and this is the last one. However, unless you are really paying attention and looking at the dates in the left lower corner, the way that Picasso did this was the opposite of what I showed. This was the first, second, and eventually this is the last. So what's the point that we are trying to make here? The point that we are trying to make here is the world is full of complex issues. And out of that complexity, sometimes you can extract simplicity. But sometimes having an idea, the nugget of an idea, the idea can bifurcate in so many ways that you can see enormous possibilities. One example that I like to give, the first paper who uncovered the structure of the DNA, the last sentence was, it has not escaped our attention that the structure so proposed, the ability to copy itself, can have interesting biological consequences. Well, in some sense, all biotechnology depended on that little thing, but people didn't see it. So the idea is to go from complex to simple and simple to complex, and being able to see both and at the same time is essential. So that's the point that we try to make in there coming from art, and there are many ones that we can make in here. Now, let me just tell you about the thinking modes, because the thinking modes, the idea here is to compare in global, sort of broad sense, the thinking modes underlying art, technology, and science. So I'm going to use visual art, especially modern and contemporary art, to make the point. Okay? So why visual art? Because in visual art, the trail of an idea, the evolution of an idea survives. For example, here I'm showing on the lower right part of the picture is the final version of Guernica by Picasso. It's now at the Reina Sofia in Madrid, but on the top you see 3 sketches that sort of preceded the painting. In fact, there are 43 of these sketches before Picasso landed on what he thought it was the final version, okay? But if I show you all of these paintings, I think it's between 1910, 1988, they are by different artists. Actually, there are 2 paintings that are by the same artist. And I ask you, order them chronologically. Which one was first? Which one was last? It's very hard unless you have taken a course on modern art. The oldest painting, by the way, is the one on the lower left. The newest one is the Jean-Michel Basquiat on the top left. And the 2 that are by the same person are the one of the woman looking backwards and the completely abstract painting on next to her, the same artist. So within each of the artists, you can see the evolution, but if I see the final things, it's impossible to put them in the right chronological order. In fact, I could show you something that has more technology because technology has some kind of arrow of time. If I show you chairs, every architect and designer has had the compulsion of designing a chair. You can design a chair, but for your chair to be iconic, it cannot be like any other previous chair. I ask you to put these chairs in order. Again, very, very tough. Okay? But on the other hand, if I show you any example connected with technology, for example, everything there could be imagined as the ability to record information, starting with vellum and papyrus and fountain pens and pencils, going to the lower right on, I don't know, what symbolizes the cloud, for example. In here, even if you were coming from outer space and be able to ask a few questions, you could say what's first and what's second, okay? But technology has little jumps and also bifurcations. For example, these 2 Harley-Davidson bikes are in the Harley-Davidson Museum north of here in Milwaukee. In the 1912, you see Harley-Davidson with 1 cylinder and a leather belt. And in the 1913, they went to the 2 cylinders, and that lasted until now, and chain belt. So, but even if you are amazingly good in designing combustion energy bikes, that doesn't help you when bikes go electric. You have to start from the beginning. This is also a Harley-Davidson, but it's an e-bike. Besides the fact that it has 2 wheels and a chain and that kind of things, nothing of the other things helps you in designing this kind of bike. So technology is more haphazard. But in everything, and curves like this you are going to see in many contexts, a technology starts, it's not very clear what is it starts maturing, becomes rapidly evolving, and then it saturates. It happens to everything. Every phone now looks the same. Okay? After a rapid evolution, they all look the same. So you have that sigmoidal curve, and in technology, you don't expect for one technology to run its course before you have an idea of a technology that will replace that technology. And eventually, they become successive evolutions like that, and that's kind of more like science. But art, and I did not go into this in detail, art is more like this, especially now. So that's, in a nutshell, art, technology, and science, how they evolve. So in art, and I'm quoting here the art critic from the New Yorker. He said that the last recognizable periods in art were the modern, postmodern, and post-postmodern. And then those movements disintegrated, and it has been pretty much one dumb thing after another one ever since. And that's what I try to represent by those curves. So this, in one slide, is what I try to convey there. So in science, science has been open source since the creation of scientific journals. You write a paper, you have to quote your sources. You build yourself standing on the shoulders of giants. That's a phrase from Isaac Newton. I did what I did standing on the shoulders of giants. In technology, the only reason to stand on the shoulders of an elder giant is to crush the elder giant. If you have ideas for companies at some point, your goal will be to crush the people who preceded you, just to replace them, okay? And in art, especially now, it's a bad idea to stand close to anybody. Derivative is a good thing in technology. Things are mixes and remixes, but derivative is very bad in art, okay? So the question is, can you order things in time? And I argue that it's very hard in art, it's possible in technology, and in science you can order that. In fact, the tree of the evolution of science has no dead branches. If something doesn't work, gets discarded. One thing that is important to remember is that progression is not progress. Just because something came after that is not progress. We all had dreams on how amazingly good the internet was going to be. This is before we discovered the bad things that happen in social media, sort of inciting revolutions and ideas. Crazy people can find each other more easily. So progress is not progression, okay? And that's always something important to remember in technology. So a few lessons that cross domains. I'll pick a couple from art, just to make the point. So in here you see 6 sketches that a French painter of name Matisse did before producing this painting, which is the final one. Is in Russia, in St. Petersburg. There is another version of this at the MoMA in New York. So this was produced by those sketches. But Matisse, as great of an artist as he was, one of the top in the 20th century, sometimes he went to the studio and was not probably particularly inspired. So what he painted was what he had in his studio. In his case, he did a painting of the painting. And in here you see again the painting of the painting inside. So what's the lesson in here? Which is the misconception that most people in science and technology have about art, and vice versa. People in art, they think that people in science and technology, engineering, are cold, rational thinkers, dispassionate. They don't see the passion driving people. On the other hand, we tend to think artists inspired, okay? Inspiration is overrated, okay? If you want to find yourself doing something really good, you constantly have to be doing things. That's the point, okay? The other thing that I want to mention, this again, Picasso, at about 15, 17, maybe 22. By the way, you can see that the evolution is not very clear in here, and about 40. In here you have Malevich. He was a Russian constructivist. This is an early Malevich. Malevich a little bit after that. And this is what Malevich ended up doing. And if you think that there is nowhere to go after this, the answer is yes, it is. That's what you end up doing, okay? So the point of this is that start with a solid grounding. This is what you are starting here. But if you ever want to do something really new, you have to learn the craft, and at some point, set it aside. Otherwise, you'll be copying what other people have been doing. This is easy to say, not easy to do. So, what's a McCormick system? How is that we are going to fill your library to give you the lens to see the world? Our entry point is design thinking and communications. Next week, you will be divided in teams of 4, and you will be thrown a question that has no clear answer, and you will work on that, okay? So the crucial difference in between us and most other places out there is that in typical engineering places, you consume knowledge, and then at the end, you are told, this is what you can do with it. You consume, then produce. Now, if you are trying to become a writer or a painter, you don't take courses about theory of painting 2, theory of painting 2. You start by painting. You learn to write by writing. So in here, what we are going to do is switch that. And the way to sort of glue things together, in there I have science, technology, and art, with the words that somehow loosely describe each of the domains. Science with discover, technology with invention. Those are pretty clear. Art, I put creation, but artists will put many other words. Reveal, transform, provoke. There will be many other words with art. And the things on the left are the left brain skills, the analytical thinking, the rational thinking. On the right, the things that are more metaphorical thinking, divergent thinking, creative thinking, artistic, if you want. Design covers from art to technology, and engineering will cover from science to technology. And in here, with the two together, you cover the whole spectrum of things. That's the important thing. So the classical engineering programs is consume, produce. But in here, what you'll have the opportunity is to encounter courses that intertwine you with almost every other part of Northwestern. You will have courses in which your classmates could be from anthropology, sociology, communications, also from the business school, the law school, the medical school. And those courses are the ones that they are all managed by McCormick, but they are university-wide. They have names like what you see there. For example, the first one in there historically is Novation Medical. It's the only one that the composition is sort of established by decree. All the other ones have free market. You want to take the course, you put your name, there you are. Novation Medical, just to explain, it was to McCormick, could be grad or undergrad, to Kellogg, business, to medical students, and to law school students. A team of 8 will go into the hospital, will shadow a surgeon. Surgeons are closet inventors. They don't have time to invent things, but they have ideas. You can follow and see what they do. And the goal of the team is to uncover a space that will represent an innovation. It could be a gadget, it could be a process innovation. That's all the other ones, energy, transportation, all the other ones in there is anybody from Northwestern. Typically, the courses may have 1/3 of students from McCormick. The other thing, and this is very, very hard in here, is it's very hard to give you a blueprint with all the connections you can possibly make. But if you ask questions, me or people in my team or other people or faculty, they could help you make connections. In here, I'm mentioning one. So Anna Kuzmanich is an accomplished designer. He works in the theater department. She did the costumes for an opera, Eurydice, in the Metropolitan Opera in New York. She wanted the costumes. Eurydice is sort of sucked by the underworld. So she wanted the costume starting white, becoming darker and darker and darker. And so she wondered how to do this. She landed on me. And I connected her actually with someone in chemical engineering, of all places. But then I discovered that one of our students had actually been connected with her. Is the fellow standing there with the mask. The one on the right, that's Anna Kuzmanich. So how this student discovered Anna, I have no idea. But actually, another woman from computer science had also worked with Anna. So in here, there are lots of possibilities, but it's very hard to give you a listing of all the things out there. The whole thing is you are curious, look at the system, try to develop connections, ask questions, okay? So this whole brain network that we're talking in here consists of many possibilities. At the bottom of this is the design thinking and communications. That's the entry point. There are the whole bunch of courses that I mentioned on the left there, the innovation classes, entrepreneurship is in there. There is a Farley Institute of Entrepreneurship and Design, that's McCormick, but serves the university. Design is with Siegel, which is again McCormick, but serves the university. And then there are all of those components, okay? We have interactions with the Block Museum of Art on campus, lots and lots and lots of possibilities. It's very hard to give you a flow chart with everything that you could be doing. Depends on your own desires and initiative. So design thinking and communications is the entry point. Now, so far I have been talking about whole brain thinking and design. The word leadership I mentioned in there, I have not mentioned it yet. But DTC is about learning leadership skills. It's not like the course has that name, but this is the table that the Wall Street produced, I think it's 2016. They spent here, the course attracted attention from someone in there. They spent 2 days in here talking with the students, and they produced this full-page article in the Wall Street. We did not give them the table that they put in there. By the way, I think that Professor Berhardt will be able to give you references to many of the things. Just email them, like the PDF of this article. So what you learn in there? In this course, in DTC, you will have a client. The client will be someone real. The example I give almost every time in here, because it's a good one, is a mother and a child. I have no idea what projects you're going to get, but this was one example in the past. The child, actually a 10-year-old boy, was born without arms. And the mother wanted the boy, and the boy wanted to be more independent. The question is, how can you propose solutions for him to be more independent? So each team of 4 will have to present 3 alternatives to the clients, in this case the mother and the child, in such a way that the clients can say, you know, about proposal A, we really like it, but not that part. B, yeah, we appreciate the effort, but it's not for us. But we like this part of C. So you'll evolve. All of you will present a solution. Some of them will be better than the other ones. The idea is that you all will be lifted. The whole point of how selective the admission in here is, you will be lifted by your classmates. You are not competing with them. You are collaborating with them. okay? So, but all of these things, creativity, empathy, teamwork, brainstorming, risk-taking, humility, by the way, resilience, because not everybody will tell you, wow, this is the best thing we've ever seen from anybody. People will give you real feedback. All of these things are things that are essential to leadership. And this will mark you for life. You are seeing this at the beginning, but this is something that I warranty you 5 years down the road, this is what will stay also with you. So getting to the next level in the journey here, it's important to understand how other people think. Without that, it's very hard to establish communication. You need to be adaptable. And sometimes you need to be able to reconcile opposite viewpoints. Maybe in the ideas discussing in DTC, you'll find two ideas that are diametrically opposed to each other. And the idea is to contemplate them and come with a good decision. But nothing happens without this, okay? I think I can teach people how to be more creative. It's very hard to teach people how to be curious. I think you have to force yourself to be curious. And this is when I made the point of Anarchos Manage and theater and exploring this an enormous amount of things in the landscape of Northwestern. You just have to be curious. I know it's going to be tough because you are going to be having course, but whenever possible, try to pay attention to this broadness. So we are here to equip you with a library. The library is for the long haul, contains timeless skills, and this library will give you a lens through which you can see the world and move forward. Okay? Your library will keep working and growing. You always have to leave room for, at some point you can say, I'm done, I cannot take more ideas. You will take one philosophical attitude. Leave always room for growth in there. Don't discard something because it's different. And you have to really work hard to augment your glasses. The world is full of very complicated problems. Some of them look unsolvable. What we want in here is to produce people that if they see this, they are not going to see this, but they are going to see this. So the future belongs to whole brain people like you. Welcome to Northwestern Engineering, and my pleasure to welcome all of you here. Thank you so much.